The Emotiva BasX MC1 is now available for pre-order.
Movies, music.
Hello, you fantastic people of the interwebs. My name is Elon Osborne, and I like to talk about movies, audio, and music. And today, I'm just gonna hop online, and together, hand in hand, we're gonna discover the new features and everything involved with the new BasX MC1 AV processor from Emotiva. Today is December 16th, and you can now pre-order it online. And I honestly feel like this is going to be a hot ticket item with all of the supply chain issues that are going on right now. The fact that Emotiva is somehow making this available to the public sometime very soon, where it seems like every other home theater component that you want right now is out of stock, I feel like this first wave of MC1s is gonna go like that. Kind of like the BasX A3 external amplifier, am I right? So without further ado, let's just hop online. Okay, Emotiva.com, BasX MC1 13.2 channel Dolby Atmos and DTS cinema processor. Now 13.2, that means it can handle up to a 9.2.4 Dolby Atmos configuration or 7.2.6 Dolby Atmos configuration. Let's just take a look at some of the pictures. It looks like with all the rest of the BasX line, it's your standard black metal. It can be rack mounted. Let's take a look at the back. Wow. So as we can see here, we've got some analog inputs, some coax inputs, optical inputs, 2 HDMI outputs, although only one supports ELAC, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 HDMI inputs. To the left are the 2 subwoofer outs. What's nice is that you have both unbalanced RCA or balanced XLR outputs. That is a very nice option in case your subwoofer itself has XLR inputs, such as some of the Monoprice monolith subwoofers and some of the more expensive SVS subwoofers, for example. And then you got all these unbalanced outputs here at the bottom. I'll break down all these little acronyms. We've got right rear height, right mid height, right front height, right back surround, right surround, right front, center, left front, left surround, left back surround, left front height, left mid height, and left rear height. But as you can see here, the mid height channels below them actually look like they are assignable. So they can be a mid height, or if we're dealing with a 9.2.4 configuration, these would actually be your wide channels. So over here we got our left wide channel, and over here we got our right wide channel. Now with that being said, now let me just break that down for you. This thing is $999, right? Any other preamp or receiver out there that supports wide fronts, you're only going to find those in the Denon X6700H and up, the Marantz SR7015. So basically it's either going to be a preamp like the Emotiva XMC2, which is $3,200, or you're dealing with the higher end receivers. The Denon X4700H, 3700H, Marantz SR6015 and 7015, they don't support front wides. Now, having front wides might be ideal in your situation or maybe your future dream home theater, because typically you have your front soundstage left, center, right, but then there might be a huge gap between those and your surrounds that are directly to your sides. So to fill in that space, maybe front wides is something you might want to consider. Because if we jump back online right now, the Denon X6700H is $3,000. Let's search the SR8015 from Marantz, $3,800. The Yamaha A8A, $3,000. So the fact that this is $999 and it supports front wides is pretty ridiculous. It is at least a third of the cost of any other processor or receiver that also supports front wide channels. Come on. Now going back to the rear of the MC1, we've got this one trigger out to trigger your external amplifiers to turn on when this turns on. Now, just a reminder, since this is an AV processor and not a receiver, that means it does not have any internal amps. So all of your speakers will have to be powered by external amplifiers. So now you might be thinking, well, if the MC1 can support 13 channels of audio and it only has one trigger output, Emotiva doesn't sell a 13 channel amp. Don't worry, you're totally fine. Because if we go to the amps real quick, let's just go to the A2, the BasX A2 for example. If we take a look at the back, we've got a trigger input and a trigger output. So you can then daisy chain more than one amp together, which then all connects to the MC1 processor. Moving on through some of the pictures. Wow, looks like there's not much going on in there. Maybe some room for future expansion. It's got a nice looking remote, backlit. Nice. It's got its microphone for the room calibration software that comes with it. Cool. So let's go over some of the features. Support for current surround sound and immersive audio formats, including Dolby True HD, DTS HD Master Audio, Dolby Atmos, and DTS:X. The MC1 supports up to 13 main and surround channels, plus up to 2 subwoofers. So since this is your lesser expensive AV processors, you can see that IMAX Enhanced is not on that list, and neither is RO3D. Exceptional video quality with fast error-free switching for up to 6 HDMI inputs, all of which support HDMI 2.0B and HDCP 2.2, 4K UHD video, and HDR, including HDR10, 10+, and Dolby Vision. So obviously this is going to be a processor that can only handle 4K. You don't see HDMI 2.1 anywhere, you don't see 8K anywhere. There wasn't any mention of 4K at 120 Hz refresh rate, but let's be honest, with all the bugs and issues that have happened with HDMI 2.1 in 2020 and 2021, does it really matter right now? Because probably by the time HDMI 2.1 bugs and issues will be resolved, you might want to be upgrading some of your home theater components at that point anyway. But say you do have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, or an 8K TV, and you want to utilize those to their fullest. Well, that brings us to ELAC, which this does support. So you can have your PS5 and your Xbox Series X connected directly to your TV and then send out the audio via ELAC. It comes with EMO-QTM Advanced Automatic Room Correction System, which automatically calibrates the MC1 for optimal sound quality with your system in your listening room. Calibrated measurement microphone with internal buffer amplifier included. That's that little one we saw a picture of earlier. Superb sound quality delivered by advanced surround sound decoders and highly optimized analog audio circuitry. Real-time status information provided by a front panel VFD display and a convenient on-screen display. Convenient control options including a full function illuminated infrared remote control, front panel menu navigation buttons, and a real front panel volume knob. Included infrared remote control provides direct one-button selection of audio and video sources, access to the MC1 menu system, and features illuminated soft touch buttons. Multiple remote control options including RS232. Firmware update via USB stick, no computer connection required. So obviously this does not have Wi-Fi support. It also does not have an Ethernet port on the back. So this is going to be your standard basic audio video component. That's probably why they call it BasX.
Recap.
Taking a look at the specs and downloads, 6 HDMI 2.0B compliant HDMI inputs, all of which can support 4K UHD video, HDCP 2.2, HDR10, HDR10+, and Dolby Vision. 2 HDMI 2.0B compliant HDMI video outputs, and only the primary output supports both ARC and ELAC. 4 stereo unbalanced analog audio inputs, 2 SPDIF coaxial digital audio inputs, 2 Toslink optical digital audio inputs, 1 USB audio DAC input, and 1 Bluetooth audio input. So it may not have Wi-Fi and it doesn't look like it supports Apple AirPlay 2, but it does support Bluetooth. So there is that for those who want to connect their phone to it to listen to music through that system. 1 set of 13.2 channel unbalanced audio main outputs, 2 balanced subwoofer outputs, 1 IR remote control signal input, 1 RS232 serial remote control input, 1 trigger output, 1 USB data input, reserved for firmware updates, audio formats and modes supported, Dolby Atmos, Dolby True HD, Dolby Surround, DTS:X, DTS HD Master Audio, DTS. Dolby Surround Up Mixer, DTS Neural X. Sound field and processing options, pure, direct, stereo, multi-channel, Dolby Upmix, DTS Neural X. It even has internal EQ that you can adjust. 11 bands of full parametric EQ left front and right front. 11 bands of full parametric EQ centered channel. 7 bands of full parametric EQ surround channels, 7 bands of full parametric EQ top channels, and 5 bands of full parametric EQ for the subwoofers. So sure, it's not such a robust EQ system where you can dial in EQ settings for each individual speaker, but you can still do it for those particular groups of speakers. But I think the most important part about that is the fact that it has up to a 5-band parametric EQ for the subwoofers. Because if you're someone like me who likes to run REW to see where fixes can be made with my subwoofers, REW only shows you what your room is doing to your subwoofers. But then what? Then I need to get a mini DSP to make those adjustments to account for what REW showed me. But with this, I can make up to 5 different EQ adjustments for the subwoofers in the processor itself. That's really cool. And that about wraps up all the specs and stuff that you can find online currently. But if you were considering going from an AV receiver to separates, I'm telling you, this is by far the least expensive way to start. Sure, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like some AV receivers do or like some more expensive preamps do, but that's honestly not what this was intended to be. This is in their basics line for a reason. But previous to this, if you wanted to get into the separates game, you would have to spend around $3,000. Sure, you could just add some external amps to your Denon X3700H, but if your ultimate goal is to have a preamp with external amps powering all your speakers, this is the most affordable and easiest way to begin building that separates system that you've always wanted.
And there you have it.
Thank you for joining me on this quick little overview of the new Emotiva BasX MC1 AV processor. Like I said, it's available for pre-order now. And I honestly predict it's going to go out of stock pretty quickly. So you might want to reserve yours ASAP. So, are you going to pre-order one? Have you been thinking about upgrading to a separates system, but just didn't want to spend $3,000 at least just for the AV processor alone? I know I would love to get my hands on one. Because on paper, this is some really exciting news. But how does it perform? Are its video switching capabilities all it's cracked up to be? Is Emotiva staying true to their claim that this is not only a home theater enthusiast component, but audiophile as well? I sure hope so. As always, please be kind to each other out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them. And of course, always be listening.